What's up, everyone? Coach Tony from Bonvec Strength. Out here doing some fishing and recording a video. Hardo move, I know, but tend to do my best thinking on the water. So I wanted to record a video for you guys today to talk about why sometimes making technical improvements and changes to your lifting technique actually makes you weaker in the short term, but will make you stronger in the long term. And a lot of lifters that I work with, when we go to make technical changes, they're a little bit resistant to it at first, understandably so, because they have to take weight off the bar. They don't feel as strong with the new and improved technique. And there's a reason for that. You get really efficient with the technique that you practice all the time, but sometimes just because you're efficient in that technique doesn't mean that it's going to be the best technique for you in the long run. You might say, well, I've gotten this far doing it the way that I'm doing it, but the thing is, lifters change over time. Your body might change. You might add additional muscle mass. Your leverages might change as you get bigger and stronger. You might accumulate some injuries that require you to change your technique. You know, if you're really strong doing a deadlift a certain way, but you get hurt all the time, every couple of months, you have to take some steps back because you keep getting hurt, then maybe you need to change your technique to something that doesn't feel as strong right away, but something that will be more sustainable in the long haul. And a lot of times too, this goes for myself included, you have to change your technique over time to stay within the rules of powerlifting. Sometimes you find yourself squatting too high in training. Maybe your stance has changed to a point where you can't reliably hit depth. So you got to change your stance. Maybe that stance doesn't feel as strong right away, but if you can hit depth, then you get to keep competing, right? So what does your strength matter if it doesn't fall within the rules of the sport? So you have to kind of check your ego at the door and say, okay, what are the changes I need to make in order to be an effective lifter in the long run? And sometimes those technique changes don't feel good right away. And in fact, the only lifters that tend to make massive strength improvements right away, like instant improvements in strength when you make a technical change, are complete newbies, people who aren't lifting optimally right away. And optimal is kind of this thing that we're chasing. The perfect technique doesn't exist, right? But you know, like there's some aspects to technique that are better than others. And when you work with somebody new who's doing things very, very far from optimal, you can make one small change and suddenly they can add 10, 20, 30 pounds to their 1 rep max just by going from awful technique to passable technique. That doesn't really happen as you get more advanced, because as you get stronger, you kind of figure out intuitively a better way to do things. Doesn't mean it's the best way to do things, but if you're beyond those total newbie stages, don't expect to get stronger right away with technical changes, even if they're technical improvements. That can be really, really hard to grasp, and it can be really demoralizing for a lifter to have to take pounds off the bar in order to make a technical improvement, but it's part of the process, and you have to see the bigger picture, and you have to kind of view yourself as, okay, this is just a little blip on the radar as far as my lifting career goes, and I'm gonna come back bigger and stronger after I give this technical change time to take hold. And you might ask, how long do I give a technique change? How long do I work on it before I decide, okay, this is the right thing to do, or before I go back to what I was doing before? And it's really hard to say. It's going to be different for everybody, but I think the best way to go about it is to pick a supplementary lift that really hammers the technical change that you want to make. So for example, if you're having a hard time hitting depth in your squat, pick something like a narrow stance high bar squat where it's going to be really easy to squat deep, or maybe even like a front squat. Let's say you're rounding your back over in the deadlift too much. Maybe you pick like a pause deadlift and really hammer that lift in a heavy low rep range. Let's say 3 to 5 reps, and run that supplementary lift into the ground. Keep training it hard until you find you just can't make progress anymore. And maybe that's 4 weeks, maybe that's 6 weeks, maybe that's 8, 12 weeks, whatever it is. Once you can't make progress on that carefully chosen supplementary lift anymore, then go back and test out your competition style lift, the one that is supposed to be building, and see if you've made strength improvements there. And chances are that if you pick the right supplementary lift, your competition lift is gonna go up, because it's gonna improve your technique. It's gonna help you iron out those weak points in the thing that was the technical problems that were holding you back in the first place. So I can't put an exact number on how long it's going to take, but I bet if you really hammer that supplementary lift that targets the technical changes you're trying to make, you're gonna get stronger afterwards. That's gonna kind of give you your timeline. All right, so I know it can be hard. It's never fun to go lighter. It's never hard to kind of start from scratch, but that's part of the process. That's part of being a lifter. And what's fun about this whole thing is that there's no time limit on it. This lifting is forever. It's just, you got to scale it to where you're at. All right, so give that a try. If you're dealing with a setback and you have to make technical changes, kind of try to put these things into action so you can be a better lifter in the long run.